I finally got out again this morning, and had a really cool astral projection experience. It was a really odd, exit. It was definitely assisted, because at some point I became aware that there is an entity kind of tugging on my blanket, and it lifted up the blanket and went under the blanket. And that's when I felt this surge of energy through my body. It was wild, entire body. And I could have freaked out because I never seen this thing, but in my mind I was like, oh my gosh, could this be like a goblin creature? But I became really aware of my surrounding, and I was just kind of trying to figure out what's going to happen next. And I was listening very closely. I noticed that there are kind of creature sounds in my room. Like, it sounded like there's a low-key growling animal in my room. And I know, that probably stops a lot of people from going further, but to me, when things gets a little creepy, it's like my sign to see if I can exit my body, because I know it's not my normal waking reality. So I started testing things out. First, I set up, and that went really normally, to the point where I couldn't discern, whether this is in the astral realm or waking. And then I got off the bed. The funny thing is, instead of walking, I decided to just sort of slump over and crawl off the bed. And one thing I noticed was the carpet is not quite like the carpet I have in my room. It's the same color, but the weave is different. But the room had a window similarly positioned to mine. So I started making my way toward the window. And I knew I wanted to see if I could exit through the window. As I'm thinking that, I'm looking out, and I noticed the backyard had a pond in it. And I don't have that in my backyard. So I started pushing my face kind of through the window. Didn't know whether it was going to work or not, because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't in astral realm. So I started pushing, and the glass started just contorting around my face like a thick plastic. And I'm pushing and I'm pushing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is way too amazing. And as I pushed through, I could see the details of these plants that were framing the window from the outside, which got me way too excited. And I popped back in the bedroom. And of course I was like, oh no, I'm going to keep working at this. I didn't work this hard to just go back. So I tried it again. And I'm pushing, and my eyeballs pressed up against the glass. And all of a sudden I find myself in a car driving down the road with this girl. And my face was next to the passenger side window. And there's this music that's playing that I knew every single word of, and I was just belting it out. It's like the best song ever. But I don't know what that song is here. I cannot. I don't know if it's a song in this reality. So I was just vibing, and I'm looking at her, and she's like a younger girl, like maybe in her 20s. She's wearing a ponytail, and she's singing along, but she didn't seem like as ecstatic as I was. And it's probably hard to be like as ecstatic as somebody who is aware that they're out of body, because it's such crazy euphoria. And I'm looking around her car, like the details are so good. Like it's kind of a mess in the car. Like she's got bits of paper, trash kind of like here and there. And I sort of wanted that car to be a Volvo 240 because it's like one of my favorite cars for a long time. But I don't think it was. But it had the vibe. Maybe it was a car from the 80s or 90s. So eventually, I thought, I want to visit other places. So I started floating up and out of her car. And next thing you know, I am hovering above this crowd at an amusement park. And I'm just looking at all these people, like, at the top of their heads, walking up and down these streets. And I could feel their, like, joy and happiness to be at the amusement park. And that made me so happy, like even happier. I was like remarking to myself just how amazing this Earth experience could be. And I was filled with gratitude. And next thing I wanted to do was just to fly straight up in the sky and punch through the clouds. And I did that. I went through layers and layers of cloud, went above the clouds, and then decided I want to come back down. It's the most amazing feeling. Like, no parachutes, no gadgets. It's just you, your consciousness, whatever this is. And I floated back down. And as I'm floating back down, notice I was transported to yet another place. And I noticed there's like a little white farmhouse off to the right. And all around it were forested wow. And I came back.